It's time for love. It's time for your love coach. Let's find out if you're ready for love. Here's your marvelous host, Nikki Lee.
Hello, and welcome to Ready for Love Radio. This is your host and love coach, Nikki Lee. Have you ever been betrayed? Have you ever felt that somebody that you really trusted or you thought you could trust has betrayed you and you just can't let go of it? Or you thought you did and then you saw them and it all came rushing back to you. Well, I think pretty much all of us have been in that situation at one time or another. And maybe we knew what to do and maybe we didn't. But my guest today is going to help us figure out what to do and how to handle that. And her name is Dr. Debi Silber. Debi, it's great to have you with me today.
Well, thanks so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
I watched both your TED Talks and I loved them. I'm like, she is great. And the energy and the enthusiasm, and I'll tell the audience right now that the TED Talks are on the show page because I had to share them. I just had to share them. So, and I'm hoping we're going to get time to talk about both the topics that you talked about. But we'll see. If not, I have to have you back because I love the other topic too. So, but let me give you a little bit of information about Debi. Dr. Debi Silber is the founder of the PBT, that's Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, and is a holistic psychologist, a health, mindset, and personal development expert, the author of Trust Again, and is a 2-time #1 international best-selling author of The Unshakable Woman, and there's a workbook with that. I just found it. And From Hardened to Healed. Her podcast, From Betrayal to Breakthrough, is also globally ranked within the top 1.5 of podcasts. Man, would I like to be there. Her recent PhD study on how we experience betrayal made 3 groundbreaking discoveries that changed how long it takes to heal. In addition to being on Fox, CBS, The Dr. Oz Show, TEDx twice, and more, she's an award-winning speaker and coach dedicated to helping people move past their betrayals as well as any other blocks preventing them from the health, work, relationships, confidence, and happiness they want most. And, most everybody has something that's preventing them from having what they really want, So I'm looking forward to the conversation. I was looking over that, and I said, I think all of us can benefit from, even if we haven't been betrayed, we've got something standing in our way somewhere. So I think everybody can benefit in some way from this conversation. You think so?
I believe so. Happy to share whatever questions you have.
Awesome. Sounds good. So how do you think betrayal is different from other crises that we have in our life? Because, there's a lot of different sorts of crises that we can have, but what makes betrayal different?
Yeah, happy to answer that. That was actually one of the 3 discoveries made in my study. And just to back up, I'm in business over 30 years. You don't study betrayal, unless you have to. So I was in health and then mindset and personal development, and I had a painful betrayal from my family. Thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that, and then it happened again a few years later. This time it was my husband. So that was the deal breaker, and got him out of the house and looked at the two experiences thinking, well, what's similar to these two? Of course, me, but what else? And realized, boundaries were always getting crossed, and I never took my needs seriously. So I'm a believer that if nothing changes, nothing changes. So here it was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business, and I decided to go back for a PhD. And it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential. While I was there, I did a study. I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my business, my family, my life. So to answer your question, the first discovery was that betrayal is, in fact, a very different type of trauma. And, I had been through death of a loved one. I'd been through disease. And betrayal felt different, very different for me. I didn't want to assume it was the same for all my study participants. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, is it different for you? Unanimously, they said it's so different, and here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the whole self gets shattered and has to be rebuilt. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. You don't necessarily lose your ability to trust when you lose a loved one, So I coined a new term, post-betrayal transformation, and that's when you rebuild not just your life, but you rebuild yourself after an experience with betrayal. So that betrayal is a very different type of trauma was the first discovery.
Do you want to give us the other 2?
Sure. So the second one was that there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post-betrayal syndrome. We've probably had, 85,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. And a few things about that. The first thing is, we've all heard time heals all wounds. Well, I have the proof when it comes to betrayal that's not true. There's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago, I'm unwilling to trust. My betrayal happened 40 years ago, I can still feel the hate. My betrayal happened 10 years ago, it feels like it happened yesterday. So we know that we cannot count on time or even a new relationship to heal betrayal. It needs to be intentional and deliberate. But there are a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, and I'm happy to share it. Every once in a while I pull the stats from the quiz to see where people land. Happy to share them if you want to hear them.
Sure.
Okay. So men, women, just about every country is represented. Imagine 85,000 people. Out of them, 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers, and anyone who's experienced betrayal knows how painful those triggers can be. These are the most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe you can't hold food down. Later on, you're using food for comfort. 45% have digestive issues. So that could be anything from Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea, bloating, you name it. The most common mental symptoms, 78% are overwhelmed. 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% can't focus. 64% are in shock. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You have a gut issue. You're exhausted. You still have to go to work. You still have to take care of your kids. That's not even the emotional symptoms. Emotionally, I'm sorry, you were saying?
No, I was just saying, well, and a lot of types of betrayal, your life flips upside down and you suddenly have to do even more than you did before,
yeah,
I would think.
Yeah, and that's part of the third discovery. And just to finish up these stats, emotionally, 88% have extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. 82% are hurt. 80% have anxiety. 79% are stressed. Here's why I wrote the book, Trust Again. 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward but don't know how. I mean, to me, the most staggering part about those statistics, first of all, you didn't hear me say anything, 20%, 30%. These numbers are really high. They're also not necessarily from a recent betrayal. So, this could be from the parent who did something awful when you were a kid. This could be from the girlfriend or boyfriend who broke your heart in high school. So this person may not know, care, even remember. They may not even be alive. And here we are, walking around with these symptoms decades later because they weren't intentionally and deliberately healed.
Right.
The good news is you can heal from all of it, which is the third discovery. But did you have a question about the second discovery?
Interesting point when you said the person may not even be alive anymore. Interesting that even if the person's gone, the impact of the betrayal doesn't go away.
Right. Yeah, and we count on time, or a new relationship to heal it, and it doesn't work. And a classic sign of an unhealed betrayal is repeat betrayal. The faces change, but it's the same thing. And right. That will happen until and unless we deliberately heal the betrayal. This is why we have so many people coming into the PBT Institute with therapy trauma, actually. They well-meaning therapists, but they're not. And listen, I'm a psychologist, but I'm a coach first. And well-meaning therapists, but they aren't highly skilled in betrayal. And if anyone is going to have you stuck, if anything is going to keep you stuck for years, decades, if not a lifetime, it's unpacking your story over and over and over again without a deliberate and intentional plan to move forward.
That makes sense, actually. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Did you want to hear the third discovery?
Yeah.
Okay. This, to me, was the most exciting. And what we learned was, while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that whole healed place of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to go through 5 proven, predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every one of those stages. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. So healing is entirely predictable.
Okay, so we're talking kind of like the stages of grief, but
no,
different.
No, grieving is a very important part of healing, but these are stages that are physical, mental, and emotional that everybody will experience if they are to fully heal. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the same idea, not the same stages.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you have a question about that, or want to know more?
Yeah. Well, I always want to know more. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm happy to go through the stages.
Okay.
It's all we do within the PBT Institute. It's what all of our coaches are certified in. They're all mapped out at Trust Again, but here's a breakdown of them. So stage 1 is before it happens, and if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with every study participant, me too, was a heavy lean on the physical and the mental, and not really prioritizing the emotional and the spiritual. And if you have a table with only 2 legs, it's easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, discovery day. This is the scariest of all of the stages. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So right here, you've ignited the stress response. You're headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You can't wrap your mind around what you just learned. This makes no sense. And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern you, that prevent chaos. Don't go here, trust this person. And in one earth-shattering move, everything you've known to be real and true is no longer. The bottom is truly bottomed out, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet, so this is terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything you could to stay safe and stay alive, and that's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? This is the stage, though, that most people get stuck in. And here's why. Once you've figured out how to survive your experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, you think it's good. So you start planting roots here. You're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And 4 things happen. The first thing is you start getting all these small self-benefits. You get to be right. You get sympathy from everybody. You get your story. So many more things. So we plant deeper roots. And then because we're here longer than we should be, the mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you deserve it. Maybe you're not that great. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. And now because these are the thoughts you're thinking, well, this is the energy you're putting out. So like energy attracts like energy. And now we're calling situations and circumstances and relationships towards us to confirm, this is where we belong. And then because we're here longer than we should be, we just want an escape from this painful place. So right here is where we start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, anything to numb, avoid, and distract ourselves from this painful place. So we do this for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years out and say, that emotional eating you're doing, or that numbing in front of the TV, or that drinking, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. They would say, well, that happened 20 years ago. But all they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're willing to let go of the small self-benefits and everything you get from it, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. And just right there, that decision, you're turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but at least you stopped the massive damage you were creating in stages 2 and stage 3. And stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, your stuff's not all there, it's not quite cozy yet, but it's going to be okay. That's the feeling of stage 4. And when you've settled into stage 4, you've made it cozy, you've made it mentally home, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage, and this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise, things like that. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now you do. The mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And you have a new worldview based on what you see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning, it was all about physical and mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual, too. Those are the 5 stages.
Interesting. Phew, that's a lot. Okay. But yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm. Yep.
I like that. And I'm sure in the book it takes longer to go through all that, but I like that overview. That's cool.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's. Now that it's all swimming around in my head, and I'm gonna be reviewing all that in my head when I'm editing all this here in a little bit this evening. Now, how does unhealed betrayal impact us as far as like our health, our work, our relationships? What does when we have betrayal and we don't do something to deal with it, how is that impacting our life?
Sure. So I see it it really affects everything. In health, in relationships, I'll see it in one of two ways. The first is a repeat betrayal. That's a clear sign that that betrayal is not healed. The face has changed, but it's the same thing. And, we keep going from boss to boss to boss, friend to friend to friend, partner to partner to partner. And we say, is it me? Yes, it is. Not that it's your fault. It's your opportunity. There's a profound lesson waiting to be learned. Maybe the lesson is you are lovable, worthy, deserving. You need better boundaries in place. Whatever it is for you, you will keep getting opportunities in the form of people to teach you until you understand that lesson. The second way we see it is the big wall goes up. And we say, nope, I'm not letting anyone get close to me. And we think that's coming from a place of strength. It's not. It's coming from fear. Our heart was so shattered, we don't want to risk the thought of that happening again. Doesn't mean it's healed. It means we're keeping people at bay. We see it in health. People go to the most well-meaning doctors, coaches, healers, therapists to manage a stress-related, symptom, illness, condition, disease. At the root of it is an unhealed betrayal. And we see it at work. People want that raise or promotion. They deserve it, but their confidence was shattered, so they don't have the confidence to ask. Or they want to be a team player, collaborative partner, but the person who they trusted the most proved untrustworthy. So they don't trust that boss, that coworker, that collaborative partner. It shows up everywhere.
Would they maybe also be looking for betrayal in relationships that isn't there because it's happened to them before?
You mean being hyper-vigilant? Sure, absolutely. It's what they've come to expect. So that's in their realm of consciousness. So they're so fearful. And it's what's very familiar. The lesson has not been learned. So, again, not suggesting it's someone's fault, but it is a beautiful opportunity for growth if you look at it that way and if you use it that way.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And I would guess, and I could be wrong, that they probably don't notice this in themselves.
Not usually. Usually it just takes the most profound betrayal, hopefully, for them to wake up and realize they absolutely can change. And when they're willing to move out of stage 3, that's when transformation begins. But most people just find themselves in stage 3. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4.
Okay. All right. New normal is a rough thing to do, but boy, it's worth the work in all facets of our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been there with health situations. It's rocky, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what questions can we ask ourselves to see if we may be in that whole numbing, avoiding, distracting ourselves phase?
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Trust, again, maps out the 5 stages, but my most recent book, From Hardened to Healed, is really all about stage 3. So if you find that you're stuck, that's, that you've been through the worst of it already. You really owe it to yourself to move forward. But you want to ask yourself, am I numbing, avoiding, distracting? If so, how? Are you going, into the cabinets? You're not the least bit hungry, but you're eating. Are you turning on the TV just to numb out the sound of your own thoughts? The next question would be, what am I pretending not to see? Am I pretending not to see there's trouble in my relationship? Am I pretending not to see I hate my job? Am I pretending not to see that health issue that needs my attention? The next question would be, what's life going to look like in 5 to 10 years if I keep this going? And play it all the way out. What is life going to look like if you ignore that health issue, ignore that relationship issue, don't do anything about that job that you don't like? And then the last question, what could life look like in 5 to 10 years if I change now? I'm not saying it's easy, but transformation begins when you tell yourself the truth.
True. Well, the best things in life aren't easy, though. they're not easy, they're not cheap, and they don't fall in our lap. Well, from my experience, they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they do for some people, but like I said, they haven't fallen in my lap. Okay, so how can we see or figure out if we haven't healed from a betrayal? Maybe we think we have. We're like, I've it was ugly for a while, but I'm over it. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt, right. I'm done.
It would be
I'm finished. How can we find out if that's not really true?
Yeah, it would be, like I said, you'd see it in your health, in your work, in your relationships, in the ways I've explained, or if you have those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, or if you're in stage 3, you haven't healed. You absolutely haven't healed. You're a different person in stage 4 and stage 5. And betrayal lends itself to creating a new identity. You take all the parts you love and you leave behind everything that doesn't serve. And you create a version of you that never would have had the opportunity to be created had it, if it didn't happen. So you're very different in stage 4 and stage 5.
But people get stuck. You and I call it stuck, but it's their normal. And
that's stage 3. Mm-hmm.
They're used to it, and it's after 20, 30 years, it's my daily normal. I've been this way for 30 years, and I don't see anything wrong with it. So I think I'm okay, and I've moved past it, and I'm good. How do I realize that it can be better? Yeah.
If someone doesn't sense a problem, that's okay. But if they're just fine, if they're not very happy in their health, in their work, in their relationships, in their level of abundance, in their level of success, in their finances, they're stuck. They're absolutely stuck. They could choose to stay stuck, and plenty of people will be there with them. That's not transformed. That's stage 3.
Okay. I think when I was looking around on your website, I saw some quizzes on there. Is that right?
Yeah, we have 2 quizzes. One is the post-betrayal syndrome quiz, and you can see what symptoms you're struggling with, and the other is the healed or hardened quiz, and you can find out what stage you're in. And they're both at the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com.
Okay, so a person, even if they seem to think that they've moved past everything, but they're just kind of curious and say, maybe I'll take it just to see, they could take that quiz just to make sure, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that personally, I was in a life that I thought was just what I was supposed to do, and was going along and doing what I was doing, and it took some things to kind of shake me up, and I realized it wasn't serving me at all, and I really didn't realize it at all.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how we can tell ourselves things that aren't really accurate. But it's amazing when you get out of that little box. Sometimes it's a whole nother world out there. But just saying.
But happy to have people go visit the site, and if you have any other questions, happy to answer them. If not, it's been a great chat.
Well, so what do we need to do to heal from a betrayal?
Yeah, we need to move through the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. All 5. And many people don't want to, but that's the way to heal. That's the way to heal and transform after the experience. Yes.
So 1, 2, 3, and jump the hurdle to 4 and 5. Do them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So if we've been through a major traumatic betrayal, can we actually learn to trust people again? Can it be done?
Absolutely. It's hard work, but it's what we teach within the PBT Institute all the time. It takes work, but it's repetition and consistency and willingness, and yes, you can.
How can we do that?
Yeah. Well, it depends if you're one of the biggest factors in learning to build trust is building trust in yourself again, because trust is completely shattered in yourself. So it really takes learning how to trust yourself again, and trusting in your intuition again, and trusting in that wise inner guide, that we have. And then from that place, we carefully can learn to trust in others. When it's rebuilding with the partner who hurt us, that's a whole different thing, and it involves a lot of work on the betrayer's part. But it can absolutely be done. We have a program for the betrayer as well.
I saw you got a quiz for the betrayer as well too. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's just like so often on here. I say too that we need to love ourselves first, and then we're in a much better position to love other people, and to be able to love them unconditionally when we love ourselves unconditionally. And that's the same thing too. It all starts with us, Then we're in a better position to give to other people.
Right.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to start with us. It's not looking for another person to fill that hole inside us. It needs to come from us, and then it's finding somebody that complements us, not somebody that completes us. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those ones that watched Jerry Maguire, and I'm like, no. When that line that everybody loves so much, I'm like, no.
Right, I agree. That's not the way to do it.
I thought you might. Oh, that's terrible. Okay. I think I actually sat in the theater going, no. All right. Now, you also, and we'll see if I'm allowed to ask you about this. One of your TED Talks was about post-betrayal transformation, which, like I said, I like.
Do you have post-betrayal syndrome?
Yes. And the other was about self-sabotaging. Can we talk about that for a little bit?
Sure. What do you want to know?
Well, first, how do you define self-sabotaging?
It's when something or someone is not in your best interest, and you just you just keep going along with something, and you're hurting yourself in the process. It's usually because of fear of change, fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Why do people do that?
Usually fear of the unknown, fear of change. Usually fear. Yeah, that TED Talk you're talking about is it's called Stop Sabotaging Yourself.
Okay. Because people tend to do that in all facets of their life, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any way that if we notice somebody doing that, we can reach out and help them?
Well, sure. Someone has to realize they have something that, either their health, their work, their relationships, and they keep sabotaging themselves. And if they're ready to stop that, they can move to that next level. But they have to be willing to outgrow what no longer serves.
Okay. How do you describe what serves or doesn't serve us?
I mean, that's completely individual. It's really based on the feeling of, are you meant for more than what you're doing, how you're living, who you're with? And when that's the case,
okay,
you do something differently or not.
And I've found that if you get to that point, the people around you tend to not be happy with you when you kind of want to upgrade yourself.
Yeah, they like it. Yeah, they liked when they knew where they stood, when they knew where you stood, and when we start wanting something more, different, better, it's always going to create a shakeup.
Yeah. Well, and some kind of take it personal, like you're making a statement about them. If you try to do something and improve yourself, which I don't see it that way. It's like if I want to improve myself, or if I want to study more, or if I want to get another place or a better job, I'm improving myself. You do you, I'll do me.
Yeah.
You live your life, I'm going to live my life. Stay where you are if you want to, but don't hold me back. That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
But family members may be upset, if you're doing whatever, but people get used to us being in a certain place, a certain whatever. And do you think it's too far to say that we should almost expect people around us to criticize us if we try to improve ourselves?
I don't know about expect, but it's a common response.
Okay. Is there, do you have any advice for how we could or should handle that?
It all depends on the scenario. I think everybody has to just take a look and say, what am I preventing myself from seeing, feeling, doing? And is it worth the price I'm paying in my health, in my work, in my relationships? And then see where that response takes you.
Right. Well, and which one is more worth it? Am I willing to hold myself back and what that's doing to me, or am I willing to go ahead and fight for what I want and improve my situation? Either one, I think we're hurting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
So am I going to fight for me, or am I just going to roll over and say, okay? So
yeah.
I've been there, so kind of unknowingly, but it's like, am I gonna fight for me and what I want, or am I just gonna go, okay, whatever, I'll stay back here with you guys, And like I said, it's not like we're doing that kind of thing to hurt other people, but every one of us is at our own stage of life. And, maybe so-and-so wants to get married, or so-and-so wants to have a baby, or so-and-so wants to get a different job. That's fine. Like I said, you do you, I'm going to do me. Everybody has to live their life, and everybody is at a different point. Mm-hmm. I know when I was growing up, and we were all in our early 20s, It's like everybody had to get married at the same time. It's like, why?
Yeah.
No, no, we don't. We all had to graduate at the same time because we were in school at the same time, but nothing else has to be at the same time as far as I'm concerned,
Exactly.
But, yeah, it just seemed really, really weird. Do you want to give some information about how people can find you?
Sure. Everything can be found at the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here with us today, and I appreciate it very much. And next time you have a book coming out, definitely let me know, and we will talk about it.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right. And you can get much more information on the show page. Just check out www.lovecoachjourney.com/betrayal. Okay? And I will have both of her TED Talks. I will have both of those videos, and I've got a huge list of links for you. Okay? So for the PBT Institute, and all of her social media links, okay, and a link to her podcast, which is From the Betrayal to Breakthrough, and TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So you'll have all of those links. And links to the post-betrayal syndrome quiz, and that's for the betrayer and the betrayed. In both, okay? But, yeah, definitely take a look at those. And the TED Talks, I think one's like 11 minutes and one's like 16 minutes. So they're short, but really good content. And I actually shared the self-sabotage one on my Facebook page a couple days ago. So feel free to take a look at those. Really, really good information. But I hope you got some good information, and feel free to take a look at that and watch that again. Like I said, lovecoachjourney.com/betrayal. So definitely negative thing when somebody betrays us, but it's something that we need to get past because it will impact our home life, our health, work, relationship, and everything going forward. So we owe it to ourselves to get past that and move on with our life and improve all aspects of our life. All right? So I will be right back here with you next week on Ready for Love Radio.